Welcome to A1R Psychic Radio here on Moonstruck TV with Amanda Hall Psychic all the way from the Gold Coast here in Australia. I just hope wherever you are in this amazing planet of ours, you're having an absolutely fantastic week now that Mercury's gone direct and hopefully communication has got back to normal. I just know that it was sort of like a great big thump here for me that all of a sudden everything that had been difficult, all of a sudden everybody magically found their listening ears and things sort of progressed forward and telephones got fixed and wow, it was a good time. Finally, I didn't have a crackle on my phone, which was a nice thing to be able to talk to people without crackling in the background. So on this week's show, we've got lots of things to cover. But first and foremost, I want to kick the show off with our Simply Tarot card of the week. And this week, I'm pleased to sort of say I don't think we've ever had this card before on the show. It's the Queen of Swords. Now, when we have a court card, as they're known in the tarot, and it comes up in a reading, people quite often find that very confusing because they say, I don't really understand what this means. Now, it can mean one of two things. It can mean, yes, that there's a woman that's going to feature in your life in the next 7 days who is of medium colouring, hazily brown eyes, could have grey hair, could be more mature, but then again could be only 22. You know, usually the Queen card is over 25. So it's usually somebody that is in an authoritarian position, but not always. So if it's not a woman of that colouring that's going to be featuring in your life in the next 7 days, I would be more inclined to look at the secondary way of looking at a court card and taking on board the energy surrounding this card. Now, this is a female card, but this card also represents needing to sort of take a little bit of coldness, you know, have a cold approach to things, have a non-emotional approach. So cold, hard, demanding authority is the secondary meaning of this card. The first meaning is a Queen of Swords is a woman over 25 with medium colouring or grey hair. In some of the old teachings of the tarot, this was considered the card of widowhood or divorcee. I don't know that that's a particularly appropriate in our more modern times because a lot of people choose never to marry, choose to be their own person or choose to not take the sanction of marriage. So it's not necessarily do I bring that sort of meaning into the card. Not every time this card comes up, you're going to meet a widow or a divorcee. You know, it's more usually the energy of you need to take on board that energy this week, that you need to be a little bit less emotional and take a sort of a colder, hardline approach and demand authority or respect from the situation or the people that you're dealing with. So it's a very, very interesting time as we head around the universe at the moment. And I want to have our little glimpse at the universe first because I want to talk to you very clearly about, even though Mercury's gone direct and we had a very difficult 3.5-week retrograde and we all breathed a sigh of relief when that finished, but Mercury is still playing havoc with our lives at the moment. We've got what's known as a conjunction between 3 planets. Now, conjunction means that they're holding hands. They're sitting side by side and they've got to be within an allowable degree of 0 to 7 degrees for it to really have effect on our lives. Now, at the moment, we have the planet Venus, which is the planet of love and affection and where we find joy in our chart or in our heart. The next planet is Neptune, which is the planet of illusion and delusion. So this is where we can try and deceive ourselves or try and deceive others. Now, Venus and Neptune are holding hands or conjunct, but we also have Neptune conjunct or holding hands with our dear little friend Mercury. And we all know Mercury's the planet of communication. So when we have these 3 sort of literally all sort of holding hands together in the playground, it means this, and they're in the energy of Pisces. So we know that the Pisces energy is water, it's emotions, it's about digging things up from the subconscious part of our mind. It affects our emotional health. It's also asking us to look at it and see whether or not we can finalise this and finally let it go and release it and move forward in our lives. So when we've got a love situation, we've got to be careful we're not deceiving ourselves, particularly in areas of communication, and it is all relating to emotional issues. I think we all need to be very aware in the next couple of weeks, but particularly in this next 7 days, how we approach difficult situations that may be going on in our lives. Make sure that you're not getting bad-tempered or short-tempered with the people that are closest to you, because your mind is very choked up with lots of things breezing in and out from the past. and you're sort of trying to deal with that and focus on everyday occurrences and going to work and children and families and being busy and having a life, and then somebody asks you for something and you snap their head off. So be very careful of that, because they're going to be feeling equally as sensitive, and this could create dramas in a relationship that don't need to be there. If you need to sit down and have a deep and meaningful conversation, I don't know that this would be the time I would be suggesting that. If it's connected to a relationship, I think I'd be leaving it for a bit better time. But if you can't leave it, then be very aware that you've got to be sensitive enough to how they may be feeling when you dump it on them of what you think is wrong with the relationship. So, okay, moving along. We've been working our way through the zodiac, and we've been working with famous actors and actresses, and this week we're up to the sign of Capricorn. And this week I'm pleased to talk about Mel Gibson. Now, it was really interesting when I went to do my research. If somebody had asked me 2 days ago, did I think Mel Gibson was an American, I would have laughed at them and told them they were mad. And I would have said, no, he's an Aussie. You know, we did claim him here as an Australian. But interestingly enough, when I did my research, he was actually born in the US of A. So it's interesting, isn't it, how you just assume you know something, and it's not until you actually do the research do you find out the real facts. But Mel Gibson's been around for a very, very long time. He's very well known for his action movies. He did study to go into the movie world here in Australia. So, but I mean, a very, very talented actor, director, producer, filmmaker. There isn't much, I think, that Mel hasn't done, but a very strong family man as well. And for most people, they probably remember him out of the Mad Max series as he, jumping out of, leaping out of things and creating havoc, and always seemed larger than life. And I must say, I can't say that I've watched all the Mad Max films. They're not sort of really the sort of things that I get off on. But I do remember Tina Turner singing a song out of that, was one of my favourites. So, I mean, I do know of him, and I know that he's done some incredible work. And he's somebody that a lot of people sort of look up to. Oh, dear old Mel, like it's like everybody's best friend, that you can relate to somebody. And we don't need another hero. My producers just put up on the screen. That was the song that Tina Turner sang. And, it's just amazing that over the years that we can relate to so many people. But when you look at Mel, and he's always done sort of earthy, gutsy type of roles. He hasn't really played the innocent, romantic sort of man. Yes, there's been romance in his movies, but not, he hasn't been that. You wouldn't think of romance and put Mel Gibson into the same sentence of a romantic comedy, but you think of Mel Gibson, in action sort of roles, and that's a very Capricorn thing to do, because it's very grounding, it's very practical, it's very logical, wanting to get to the bottom of big issues. So it's interesting how we gravitate to roles or situations in our lives that do relate to our star sign. And that's one of the reasons why I've been bringing you this series, so that you can sort of relate to some of the famous people and singers and entertainers and that we've been talking about. And you say, oh, yeah, I can see that. And that just makes astrology a little bit more fun. If I sat here and gave you a lecture on it every week, you think, oh, gee, not that again. But this way you can start to absorb astrology and the magic of it and understand that, I can see how that sort of fits. So next week we'll be dealing with our female Capricorn actress, and that will be somebody that we all know too. I've already got her written down for next week. So moving on to where the sun's actually up to in the astrological timetable for the year, I'm pleased to say the sun's in Aries, and it's amazing this time of the year, because it's like the brand new year in the astrological calendar. It's like the new year's just started and everything's fresh and new and exciting, and people start to get motivated and sort of bright ideas come in. But it can also fray our tempers too, because it is a fire sign, and fire sign people don't have a lot of patience. I've told you once, bang, let's do it. It's time to get moving. And Aries people are known for the me first energy, and that was one of the first things I learnt many moons ago in astrology, was me first with Aries. And they don't like to wait, they don't like to be told no, and they can seem a little bit snappy and snarly at times. It's only because their mind is working such overtime and they want to get on to the next thing. So we're working with the fire sign candle this week. This is the Aries candle, or the fire sign candle, and it's one of my favourites, strawberries and champagne. And if you want to start to bring new things into your life, this is the perfect candle for you. It's the time of sort of putting things down on a piece of paper, 3 things that you want to bring into your life, 3 new projects that you might want to start. And it might be something as simple as looking after yourself better, you know, starting to slowly introduce a new exercise regime into your life, something that you really enjoy doing, not something that you see as a chore. And this year has really been a focus from people I've been working with all around the world, people not necessarily conscious of weight anymore, but looking at getting well. And I think that's an amazing shift in energy. I think we should all be looking at trying to get well. Never mind what your body shape is, just make sure that you can feel the best that you can feel. So all my extra large candles have 2 wicks. So I light 1 wick one day, 1 wick the next day. It just gives you a longer burn time, up to about 100 hours, depending on how you look after your candle. If you keep the wick short, keep them out of drafts, out of air conditioners, all those sort of things. Burn your candle for 15 minutes to 2 hours a day. Now, I want to be very clear on that. The recommended thing from the candle suppliers is that you never, ever burn a candle for more than 2 hours, because the glass container does get hot. The soy wax doesn't get hot, but you should only be burning a candle always for never more than 2 hours. That's an interesting thing, because a lot of us sort of think we'll light it and forget it and walk out of the room. We shouldn't really be doing that. We should be sitting with it, because it is fire after all at the end of the day. So we have our little mini travel pack. This week I've focused on the 3 candles of the fire sign, and these will burn for about 15 hours. So you write your little list out, you read it out to the universe, you pop it under the candle, put the candle on a coaster, and, you know, you light your candles and you work with those for, 15 minutes to 2 hours a day. But I just also want to quickly show you, I know I talk about it every week, and I say that you can make up a pack that suits you. You don't have to have what I'm talking about. So what I did this week was I made up a little pack of a tarot, a good luck and a love candle, just to show you visually you can choose whatever you like. There's 28 in the range. We have something to cover just about every situation that you might want to bring improvement and changes to in your life. So it just gives you that flexibility. For those of you that don't want to work with a candle, a melt warmer, you can pick these up at your local department store or supermarket. Around about $15 here in Australia. These are electric. 2 teaspoons of wax to start it off out of your candle, and then about a teaspoon a day. And you can write your little list out, do your intentions as you would do under your candle, but this is a much safer alternative, because you can leave this unattended, and it puts a lovely fragrance through the house or the office. So it's one of my go-to things. I probably don't light as many candles now as I used to, because you've got to sit with them, but I tend to have 1 or 2 of these going all the time. And as I've mentioned before on the show, I have one in my office that I have protection wax in, that I use that as one of my ritualistic things I do before I start the day, that I turn that on, I study, I look into the wax as it's melting, and that's my meditation and my protection for the day before I start work. So that's just a little bit about that. But the Aries time of the year is about new, exciting opportunities that are coming towards us, and we have that opportunity to make hay while the sun shines. So please don't waste it. It's a time when we can all have some brilliant ideas, but it's also a time when we can sort of look at things that maybe we had on our list at the beginning of the year for our New Year's resolutions or intentions or things that we were going to be doing, and maybe some of those we can cross off because we've either completed them or we've decided that they're no longer as important as they once were. So it's really, really sort of interesting, because, we all, I think, need to kick up the backside occasionally to get us motivated and get us moving again, and sort of get the blood pumping and say, yes, I'm enthusiastic and I'm ready to sort of step out into the world and do something new. So just on that vein, we're going to do something new. We're going to take a caller, and it's Holly in Brandon, Florida. Are you there, Holly? We just lost Holly, so I'll keep talking until we get Holly back on the line. So it's really interesting, because the Aries time of the year, as I said, is so fascinating, because a lot of people really do start new businesses or new projects under this time. And the fact that, Easter is going to fall in the Aries time of the year this year, I think is also an interesting thing, because astrologically we've had so much going on. We've had, changes all around the world with governments, and people are not happy and they're disgruntled with governments for various reasons. We've got Holly back again. Hello, Holly.
Hey, I lost I guess I dropped service or something. I'm not for sure.
That's all right, Holly. You're with us now, sweetie. Do you have a question I can work with, please?
I just mainly want to know if my I've never done these things before, so I really don't even know what to ask. But two things is my father near? Like, is he with me? And like, is my love life going in the right direction? Am I making the right choices for me and my children?
All right, first and foremost, anybody that's passed over, Holly, is always around us. The thing is, we, I suppose, as human beings here left on Earth, expect that we're going to get some sign that we can say, right, that's definitely Dad. I know that for a categorical fact. And sometimes it's not quite that obvious. Sometimes it can just be a feeling. Sometimes it can be a song on the radio, or it can be you're walking down the street and a street sign is illuminated and reminds you of Dad, and you think, oh, gee, I haven't thought of Dad in ages. And it's those sort of little subtle things is the times then when that you know that Dad is around you at the strongest. You know, their role on the other side is not constantly to be in our face giving us advice all the time. They're always with us. They're always keeping an eye on us. And sometimes they want to come forward with a message, but 9 times out of 10 they don't. They're just happy to be and watch what's going on and see their grandchildren growing and all those sort of things. So, you know, don't sort of think that Dad's deserted you, because he hasn't. You know, look for your own little signs. I see lots of people talking about feathers and things like that. I'm not saying that that doesn't happen, but what I'm saying is don't get caught up in what seems to be trendy. Look for the signs that you can relate to. You know, if there was something that particularly your dad liked, like my dad used to have a joke with me about his middle name was Lawnmower. And every now and then I'll see an ad for a lawnmower and I smile and I think, oh, there's Dad sending me a message. Do you know what I mean? But to someone else, that would mean nothing. Yeah. So you look for the personal little things that mean something to you. So as far as your love life's concerned, I still feel that there's...
I told him I was life support, so I'm dealing with this burden that I don't think, like, I don't, it's like I don't want him to be mad at me. You know, I was the power of attorney, so I think that's what I deal with the most. You know, I don't feel those signs, so maybe where if I open up, maybe I would be able to feel them more, or maybe have those signs or see those signs. You know.
Yeah, you will. And I think what you've got to do now, Holly, is you were given power of attorney for a reason. Your dad gave it to you because he believed that you would make the right decision, whatever the decision needed to be made, that you were the right person for the job. So he's certainly not angry with you that you turned off his life support. He's actually happy that you did, because he didn't want to be in that state where he couldn't do anything for himself. If anything, he was hoping you were going to do it a bit sooner, because he was embarrassed to be like that. He didn't want people to remember him laying there lifeless. That's not how he wants to be remembered. He wants to be remembered and celebrated for the amazing things that he did, and, you know, the way that he related to children and the way that he sort of made the world a better place. He wasn't always the easiest man to get on with, but, you know, he had a special tolerance for young people, and that's what he wants to be remembered by. He doesn't want to be remembered laying lifeless in a hospital bed, and he's certainly not angry with you over that. So I think once you can sort of let go of that and come to terms with that he gave you that role because you were the right person for the job, and all as you did was made the best decision that you could for him, knowing how he wouldn't have wanted to be in that situation, that he's happy with you. He's not unhappy with you. And I think you'll find then more and more messages or more and more signs will start to come to you, because you're not so locked in on that sort of, maybe I didn't do the right thing. You did do the right thing. So just remember that. Now, going back to your love life, I'm seeing 2 question marks there. So I'm not completely convinced that this relationship is everything that you want it to be at the moment. Has there been a couple of niggly issues there that you've been trying to work through?
It's just long distance right now.
You what, darling?
It's the issue is that we are working through issues of long distance. I'm in Florida. He's in North Carolina.
Well, okay. Well, I think keep going, because I don't feel the relationship's coming to an end, but I think you've just got to keep persevering. I think, you know, your main role at the moment is to keep moving forward for yourself and your children. The relationship itself will go through a few more ups and downs, but I think it will eventually find its level place. And I think that you'll be able to sort of look at things in a stronger way. So I hope that's helped you, sweetie.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much.
You're very welcome, Holly. But just look out for the signs for your daddy. He's got a little bit of an unusual sense of humour. He likes to do things his way. A little bit like Frank Sinatra in that song, I Did It My Way.
Yeah, and you hit it on the nose, because I did want to take him off sooner, because I know how embarrassing it was for my dad, and I mentioned that a couple times in the hospital room. I want my dad to grow his wings, because I know he's embarrassed being here. My dad don't want to be on life support. He doesn't want to be remembered this way. So
Absolutely.
I thank you very much for letting that ease me.
Yeah, that was a direct message from him, not my opinion. That was what came through from him. So you can take that back to the family. Anyway, have a great day, Holly. I've got to move on now. We're going to work with Sue in, I don't think I can pronounce that name, in New York. Sue, that'll be easier. Oh, I'm not even going to go there. We'll just say hello to Sue.
Hi, how are you?
I'm very well, sweetie. I apologise I didn't pronounce where you're from, but some words are just a little bit above what I can pronounce here from Australia. How can I help you tonight, sweetie?
Well, I have been single for 4 years, and I just started speaking with a guy that I met on a dating app, Tinder. We've been talking for a little while. We've FaceTimed, and we've talked on the phone and texted. Do you see that this is going to work out?
So I still feel that there's some hesitation there, not just from your side, but also from his side. Now, is that because there's some distance between the two of you, as in location? Or is it just distance between the two of you sort of connecting?
Right now he's away on work, and he's going to be back in town shortly, and then we'll be able to actually meet, because he'll be closer to where I live.
Good, okay. Because once we get that connection back again where you're sort of in the same location, I think things will start to grow again, and grow at a very good pace. Look, I don't feel uncomfortable with this relationship. I think at the beginning, I think you both were sort of a little bit hesitant, one step forward, 3 steps backwards, purely only because both of you'd been hurt in the past and you didn't want to make another mistake. But I think, 4 years down the track, I think we've had enough time now to sort of really get to know each other on a different sort of level. And I think when you sort of meet people in these modern ways where we're, doing it on Tinder and text messages and phone calls and not so much in the actual flesh, I think the relationship develops in a different way. It's sort of like, we can't hide anywhere, like you eventually sort of expose who the true person is. And maybe in some ways we see more of the person's true personality than we would if we saw them every day, because it's easier to keep up a facade if we're seeing somebody every day and keep it sort of pretty much the same. But when you're doing things over other devices, other forms of communication, it's much harder to keep up that pretense. So, look, I really think this relationship's got legs. I think that things will start to move fairly quickly once he's back in the same location as you. And I think by the end of this year, I think the two of you are making a serious decision at what's next in the relationship. We need to take this to a more serious sort of level. And I feel very comfortable with that. I think you'll both be ready then by that. But is he looking to change his job shortly?
He said that when he's done with this assignment, because right now he is actually drilling oil in the Gulf of Mexico, and when he's done with this assignment, he said that he's actually going to retire. So this is it for him.
Oh, good. Well, that will be a change of job then to me, because it's, he's not going back to what he's doing. But when he uses the word retirement, I don't want you to think that means he's going to sit around and watch the grass grow. I do actually think he'll take up something or start up a little hobby business or something like that. I just don't see him being able to just give up completely. That's not in his nature.
No, he said that he wanted to spend more time with his daughter and, do more things that he can't do because he's away from her a lot. His wife passed away 2 years ago from cancer, and he's been single for 2 years, and he's just getting back into the swing of things. And I've been single for 4 years because I was with an abusive person. So both of us are just getting back out and starting dating.
Yeah, but I think that this has got real legs, that it's got real potential, this relationship. So, I think it's going to go places. I think you're going to be together. And, I just think there's a lot of fun and a lot of happiness to be had. But just be aware, he's not going to completely retire. He will go into something because he's the sort of person that needs something to do. He can't just do nothing or spend time with his daughter all the time. But that's good because that means he's keeping his mind active and, all those sort of things, which are important. So, I think everything's sort of going well. So that's where we're going to leave it. We've got a couple of minutes. You're very welcome, sweetie. We've only got a couple of minutes left of the show. So wherever you are, I hope you enjoy the week ahead and make sure that you've got your listening ears on now that Mercury's sort of gone direct again. And we will do it all again in 7 days. But the thing is that I think that we all need to be true to ourselves. And it's been a very interesting year where a lot of things have been revealed to us, whether it's sort of people are lying to you or governments are lying to us or whatever. But a lot of things are coming out in the washing, so to speak, at the moment. So just be aware of that and be aware of not everybody's as happy or in as happy place as maybe you are. And we need to make allowances for those sort of things. It's really important do make allowances for people like that. So for those of you that want to learn a little bit more about Sun in Aries, come and join me on my Facebook page, Amanda Hall. Directly after the show concludes, we'll be doing a little mini workshop on the Sun in Aries. But until next week, I hope that you keep smiling, you're kind to each other, and remember what we're leading into. We're leading into Easter, and what does Easter mean to you? To me, it should be about family time. It should be about honouring your belief systems or your religion. But most of all, I think it's a time to take a little bit of stock of where our lives are heading and what we can do to maybe improve it. And don't forget to reach out to people that may not have the luxury of having family or friends close by, because it can be a very lonely time any holiday period if you're by yourself. So until next week, bye for now.